Good morning, welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be doing rear brakes on my wife's Mazda CX-5. This is a 2017 Grand Touring CX-5. The brakes are getting pretty low. They're starting to make I think they're on the wear sensors. They're starting to make a little bit of squealing coming from the back. So we'll walk through you have to put, since this has got the electronic e-brake, you have to put the car into a service mode to be able to retract the rear calipers in order to get the pads out and new pads in. So I'll walk through that procedure on how to do that. And then for brakes, went with Centric premium rotors. There's the part number. These are, from what I've read, these are OEM blank rotors, so pretty much what most OEM manufacturers use this company and then just stamp their name on it. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but that's what I've read. I read that actually on the S2000 forums, because these are the same rotors that people recommend for the S2000. Also got a pack of their Posi-Quiet ceramic pads. So we'll put those on and let's get started. Alright, so first thing we want to do is put the car into a service mode. So we're going to start, you have your key with you. Going to hit the start button to get it to the on mode. So once, twice, we'll put it in the on mode. Make sure you don't have your foot on the brake or else it'll start the car. We don't want to start the car. Next, get some white down there. We're going to put the gas pedal all the way to the floor and you'll feel it click. And we'll press the parking brake switch down, hold it, and then hit the start stop button 3 times. I don't know if you could hear that on the camera, but the parking brake all of a sudden made a bunch of noise. And if you look, your parking brake light is now on the dashboard. Obviously it disconnected a few things as well. Your cruise control is disabled, etc. So that means the car is in service mode, which allows us to retract the piston inside the caliper safely without damaging anything. So now we're free to go ahead and do our brakes, and then I'll show you the procedure to re-engage the parking brake. Moving on to doing the brakes. So first thing, we're going to jack the car up. Just going to do one side at a time. We'll get the wheel off, pull the brake caliper off, the bracket off, and our rotor, and replace everything, get it back together. Well, we got the car jacked up. Jack stand on the subframe for safety, so it's resting on the subframe. Lug nuts are a 21 millimeter. I don't know if Harbor Freight still has this set or not, but these are pretty nifty little box of lug nut sockets with a plastic protecting sleeve so you don't scratch your wheel all up. Recommend those. Those are actually pretty decent, and I've had them for a while. So we'll go ahead and pull this wheel off. So next, you see your electronic parking brake assembly back here. So you got this plug here for it, and then obviously your brake line that's all connected to your caliper here. So what we're going to do, we're just going to unplug this. Alright, so this clip's kind of a pain. You gotta be careful with it. So what I did is I got a screwdriver, smaller screwdriver, and kind of pried this direction with it, pry upwards. And you can hear it clip. It's hard to do with holding the camera. Just like that. So it kind of pushes up and undoes it off of that little clip there. Kind of a pain, just, yeah, you can kind of see how it works in there. Just be careful not to break it. So obviously plastic, very fragile. Okay, with that undone, we'll go ahead and pull our caliper bolts here for the caliper itself. So these are 14s. We'll pull these out and then hang our caliper back here and then remove our caliper bracket to get the rotor off. Okay, we got the caliper off. I'm just going to use a little zip tie. You can use a bungee cord or whatever. Just hang it, make sure it's not hanging by the hose. Okay, we got that out of the way. And you can see the front pad is basically at end of life completely. Wow. Yeah, pretty bad. So those definitely need to be replaced. One thing to note, this is a little confusing for some reason. I don't know why Mazda did this, but you have the little notches in here. Typically that's so you can get a tool to twist the caliper back in. You do not want to do that on the Mazda. You're supposed to just push straight back in, just like a front caliper. If you twist it, you will damage it. I've read that in the service manual, so do not twist when you push that piston in. We'll go ahead and get these pads off, get this bracket off, and pull the rotor next. Alright, so next we got the caliper bracket. Those are also 14s, so we'll go ahead and break those loose. Alright, got our bracket off. So you can see our extremely low pads. We'll pop these out. Yeah, those were done. Next we'll pop the rotor off. So typically rotors get kind of rusted up on there. Honestly, if you're not reusing it, I just take a 3-pound hammer, shock it a couple times, and it'll pop off. Just like that. And our rotor's off. Okay, so what I'm going to do next, I'm going to clean this up. So I'm going to take a wire brush to this, clean up these brackets. It's up to you how you want to do it. I typically do not have good luck. Typically you get new brackets. I don't have good luck with these fitting the way an OEM one fits. I actually have that issue with my F350 where the bracket's too big and it slides and makes contact with the rotor and makes a squealing noise. So me personally, if at all possible, I like to use the OEM brackets if they're not all messed up, which these look fine. So I'm just going to clean them up and reuse them. But again, it's up to you. Typically brake pads come with new brackets. I'm also going to pop these out. These are your sliders. And just going to add a little bit of, wipe them off, wipe them down, put a little bit of wheel bearing grease on them just to re-grease them up, make sure they're good. As you can see, I cleaned up pretty well. Just clean up where the pad's going to slide, and obviously we're gonna lube the ends of the pads so they slide freely. So next we'll pop these slider pins out. See there? So I'm just going to wipe this down and apply some new grease to it. So make sure to do them one at a time, because this one apparently looks different. Next step, I'm going to take a wire brush to the hub, clean the rust off this hub, add a little bit of anti-seize around the hub ring, so that should hopefully keep the rotor from getting stuck next time the brakes have to be done. Alright, so the new rotor's got this coating on it, so this anti-rust coating. So you got to make sure you spray it off real well with brake clean and wipe it down before you put the rotor on. Okay, I'm going to put our caliper bracket on next to kind of hold the rotor in place. Actually, go ahead and take a lug nut. And take a couple lug nuts to hold the rotor in place. I'm going to dab a touch of medium strength Loctite, blue Loctite typically. This is a off-brand, but on our caliper bracket bolts. We'll go ahead and reattach our caliper bracket. Okay, with our bracket bolts in, we can go ahead and torque those up. Alright, so for the pads, there's one for the front side of the rotor and the back side, so you want to make sure you have one of each. An easy way to tell is looking at this is there's a little 2 on that metal clip, and then on the other one there's a 1, and there's same on these new pads. There's a 2 on that one, and then a 1. That's also a 2, so yeah, 1. And then you can also look at the backs. Obviously your piston side went on the 2, so your 2 is going to be your back side. So this one's going to go on the back, and this one is going to go on the front. So what I like to do, you can use any type of like brake pad lubricant. Honestly, I've been using anti-seize. Again, I've been using anti-seize for 15-20 years. I've never had an issue. I've always put them on brake pad slides right here, like on the edges. So I'm just going to use anti-seize, but again, you can use whatever you get at auto parts stores. I know they got some specially made grease for brake pads. So I like to apply a little bit on the back where it's making contact with the piston and the front of the caliper, and then obviously on the sides where it's going to be sliding across our little metal clips here. So you want to make sure these are lubed up. Just make sure don't overdo it and get it all over the rotor or the pad. You do not want grease or any seize on your pads or the rotor. So So we'll go ahead and get these lubed up with some anti-seize and slide them on. Yep, just like that. Okay, they're all in. Much thicker than the ones we pulled off. Next, we'll retract the caliper and put the caliper on and torque it down, plug our brakes in, and move to the other side, knock the other side out, and we should be done. Alright, next we're going to push in the caliper. I got one of these little brake tool kits. I normally just use a big pair of channel locks, which I have there. Have always done that, never had issues. Some people don't like that. I've always done it that way. This one I'm a little nervous about because I don't have anything to pull off on the other side because my channel locks will be up against that plastic case for this parking brake. So I kind of don't want to risk doing it that way. So I made something work out of this. I'm using like a Honda adapter. It's a little hex head on the center, but it won't be twisting the piston. It's butted up against the piston, so as soon as I turn this, it should just push it in without twisting it, so we won't damage anything. Like I said, you don't want to twist it in, even though it does have the slots for like a twist-in style. On the service manual, the service manual specifically says not to do that, so we're not going to do that. One other thing, if you've ever had your car serviced or anybody has ever touched the brake fluid, like doing a flush or anything, you want to make sure your brake fluid, maybe empty some of it out, because if your brake fluid's completely full with the brakes being this low, as soon as we start pushing this piston in, you'll push fluid out of the reservoir if it's too full. I know we haven't done anything with the brake fluid on this car. We've owned it since new, so there shouldn't be any issue. There's no additional brake fluid in the car. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and push this in, cut our zip tie, get our caliper back on the slides, and torque it up. As you can see, it's going in real easy. That's starting to slide off. It's not twisting the caliper, so we're good. It's just pushing it in. And there it is. And you don't have to put a lot of pressure on it. You'll feel it stop, and that's when it's done. Go ahead and loosen this. Pop that guy off. Now our piston's all the way in. I'll cut our zip tie and we can pop it on the bracket. Okay, she's all together. Last thing, don't forget to plug in your parking brake. Okay, that's plugged in. Can pull these back off now. One thing I do like about these rotors too is they coat the inside so you don't get rust on the inside or the outer edge. Looks super nice. I'll post the part numbers in the link. I got them on Rock Auto. I'll put them in the description. Okay, with that we'll put the wheel back on. I'll torque that up, show you the torque spec for that, and I'll go ahead and knock out the other side. I don't need to film it. It's just going to be the same thing as this side. And then we'll take the car out of maintenance mode for the parking brake, and take it for a drive, make sure everything works. So we got our wheel snugged and down. We're going to go ahead and torque it up. So the torque on these says anywhere from 80 to 108 foot-pounds. So again, I'm going to go in the middle. I got my torque wrench set to 95, so I'm going to torque the wheels up to 95. Make sure to go in a star pattern. All right, that's it. I'm gonna go ahead and knock out the other side, and then I'll show you how to get it out of maintenance mode. That should be it. Go ahead and get out of the service mode. We're gonna climb in, and it's pretty much the same procedure I showed you, but with the switch pulled, the park and brake switch pulled instead of pushed. So again, we'll get 2 clicks to get our key in the on position. Push our gas pedal all the way to the floor till it clicks and hold it. And then we want to grab our park and brake switch and pull up on it, and then hit this 3 times. So with that, I'm not sure if you heard the back, so it makes you can hear the park and brake make all that noise again. And then we look at our dash, and the park and brake light is off. So we should be good to go now. So go and pump our brakes up a little bit, get it pedal hard. Start a car, make sure we don't have any lights on. All right, our park and brake's on, it works. It's off, let's go take it for a drive.